morning. Tony here is coming here today to tell a little bit about his story, about amateur boxing, all of his championships, how he's turned his passion and purpose into cherry pick boxing. So without further ado, let's welcome Tony Cherry to the stage.
So it is a great honor and blessing to be here. And I'm gonna be honest, I've never, ever, ever, ever spoke publicly in my life before. All right. So, like, but it's crazy, right? Because this is like the same feeling like I used to feel like right before a fight. It's not like a scared feeling, it's like an anxious feeling. But just the season I'm in right now, I'm not gonna shy away from something that makes me uncomfortable because growth is uncomfortable, and without growth, you can't blossom. So I saw this as a challenge, and that's probably why I feel like that fight feeling in my gut right now. But like in a fight, once you start swinging, like all the nerves go away. But I can't punch none of y'all, so I'm, I'm, I'm gonna have to feel my way through this one. All right. So, um, everybody knows me for being a boxing coach, but I wear a lot of different hats. I'm a real estate agent as well as an investor. That's a flip I did in Church Hill right there. Um, I'm also in research and development for a silicone manufacturer, so I do that as well. And I run a dog kennel. I'm in a large guardian breed called Boer Bisons. So, yeah, I do a lot as well as train. So this is my beautiful family. You just met my wife, Charmaine. Me and Charmaine been together for over 20 years. Yeah. And and boxing actually brought us together. We actually met in a boxing gym. So I have all these beautiful people around me to thank from boxing. So this is my oldest son. He's 20. My middle son's 19, and my baby girl will be 18 tomorrow. So yeah, that's a big accomplishment, and we drinking tomorrow, baby. We celebrate. so um so yeah, these are some very influential people in my life. I just wanted to give you a little bit more of my background. I'm born in D.C. I was raised in the beach until what late 98, 99. That's when I moved to the Richmond Chesterfield area. But I was born to a teenage mother. Most of my mother's pregnancy, she was 14. She turned 15. She had me a week and a half later. She's the epitome of sacrifice. I watched my mom work 2 or 3 jobs just to make sure I had. Um, and she was protective, real strong woman. I remember her telling me, like, my first day of school, somebody hit you, you better hit them back. And if you can't whip them, you better pick something up. So she always put that seed in me, like you don't take mess from anybody. Um, another quality seed she dropped in me early was where there's a will, there's a way. And it all comes down to who wants it the most. So you enforce your will at all costs. And that made me a dog. I don't say die, I don't give up. And I get that from my mother. Um, Being that my mother was so young, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. She also helped raise me. My grandma was a very prideful woman, spiritual, very stern, not very emotional. And the seed that she gave me that killer mentality. Like, regardless of your emotions, you execute and you get the job done. So I have my grandmother to thank for that. Um, so this is my biological father. My father did 23 years in the penitentiary. Um, I didn't meet my father until my senior year in Lawrenceville Correctional. That's when I met him. He was released in 2015, and we've gotten pretty close. Like I said, I remember when I met him, my senior year, that was like one of the freakiest days of my life because it was like looking at myself in a time machine. You see how much we look alike, right? It was crazy, but like I said, he got released and we got pretty close. This right here is my stepfather. Um, he came into my life probably my 6th or 7th grade year. That's when he moved in with us, and that was hands down the most pivotal point in my life. Um, I always ask my fighters, right? I ask them, "Do you watch boxing?" If they say no, I know they ain't got a shot in hell because you gotta see it. You know, we learn so much visually. You know what I mean? So the movements is in just like with people. I had to see a man to learn how to be a man. You know how he treated my mother. I learned how to treat a woman. I learned how to provide. I learned how to maintain a house, cars. Compassion, empathy, stick up for people that can't stick up for themselves. These are the things that I got from my stepdad. So um, he was diagnosed with ALS a few years ago, and I don't know if you know about ALS. That's a condition that hits your nerves, and you basically lose control of your muscles. So he has no control over his limbs, and he recently just lost them because all this is muscles too. So now he can't talk, right? But even watching my hero break down like that, right? I never heard him complain, not once. Not once did he ever complain, not a why me or this hurts. So, and it hurts watching your hero break down, but at the end of the day, he's still motivating me while he's breaking down. So, I really want to dedicate this talk to him. That's my hero right there, Jared Vaughn. Um, this is where I grew up in these row houses right here. It was two families to each one of these houses. You see how small they are. It's about 2 blocks of these, right? I remember knocking on these doors when I was like 9 years old. I used to ask people, let me take your trash out for $1. And they would do it because they respected my hustle. So I always been a hustler, right? Right. um, so I wanted to give you that background just so you can understand my foundation. I come from solid people that gave me a good fundamentals, good morals, good principles, and I know people in here, like you have children, you can raise them right, but that doesn't always mean they're going to do right. You know that, right? They're not always going to do right. And I didn't always do right. But the consistent factor in me not doing right was when I was in that boxing gym. Boxing gym kept me sane, it kept me balanced. I was always a fighter. Um, I got into boxing at a local boys and girls club in the 7th grade. But like I said, even before that, boxing was my favorite sport. I would read encyclopedias, like I'm showing y'all my age. I used to, I used to study these encyclopedias. I knew all the champions, the Ray Robinsons, Muhammad Ali's, Joe Gaines, Joe Lewis. I was studying all these guys when I was in elementary school. I knew them already before I even came into a boxing gym because I used to always like to fight, right? So like I said, I moved to Richmond in like 98, 99. 2001, I started competing in amateur boxing. I actually lost my first fight, but I stuck with it because it was my passion. And then I started winning. I won silver gloves. I won a lot of different tournaments. And it got to the point where I was a teenager and I was fighting grown men pros. And they had to fight me for real because I got that good. So I graduated high school, and that was a different time. Like, back then it was, you either work, you go to college, or you go to the military. I don't even think I heard the word entrepreneur until I was grown, or it knew what it meant at least. You see what I'm saying? So that was an option back then. And I didn't want to put that financial burden on my people with the college thing. So I was like, I picked the military because, I always was regimented, with the boxing. And they offered boxing in the military. I got to travel, got to get out the house. It just seemed like the best bet for me. So I tried it and it did not work. Because, like I said, I was out of the gym. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't the same. I put on 30 pounds in the military. You know what I mean? So you're supposed to get a lot of people going there to lose weight. I put on weight because I was already in shape. You see what I'm saying? So it didn't work out. So long story short, like I said, I'm out of the gym. I get with some guys. We go to a club and fight breaks out, and probably know how that went. These guys didn't like how that fight went, so they came back shooting. And 4 people got shot that night. 2 of them and 2 innocent bystanders, right? So I got locked up, and everybody knew I didn't shoot the innocent bystanders because they were damn near behind me to the side of me. But in the state of Kansas, they have something called mutual combat. If you get in a shootout, two groups get in a shootout and people get hit, you're both held responsible. But like I said, that's my first charge. And they knew I didn't shoot those people. I knew who I shot. They didn't pick up the charges for the people that were doing the shooting initially. They picked it up for the innocent bystanders. But like I said, they know I didn't shoot them. So it was my first charge. So I got 2 counts of aggravated battery. That's the lesser charge that I could have got for that. So that was 2003 in August, right? So I get back to Richmond in April 2004. First thing I do is get a job, get back in that gym. First year back, I won Golden Gloves. Everything's going good. Um, I moved out of my parents' house maybe like a year later after that. But during that time, me and Charmaine had been dating. And you know how that goes. First comes love, then comes the baby. So I always knew, because like I said, I didn't have a father figure in the house, early growing up. So I always knew when that time presented itself, I was gonna be on man time. I was gonna do what I had to do. So I got me an apartment and I moved her in with me. We started a family. That was also about the time when I started getting a lot of traction in the boxing. Promoters were using my face for their flyers. I'm winning these tournaments. I'm doing real good. I got invited to the radio station. Everybody's promoting me, right? Um, but it was also later that year, 2006, is when I first started feeling a twinge in my shoulder. So I kind of adapted. I was always a strong right hand fighter, but I adapted. I developed like a stiff jab, a hard left hook, and I was still winning fights. So I kept fighting. And when you have an injury and you don't get taken care of, it gets worse. So it started off as a torn rotator cuff, and then I eventually split my labrum in half. So I couldn't even pick up a cup without my arm falling out of place. So it got to that point, it was like, I can't take it no more. So I got the surgery probably the beginning of '08, and it was a long recovery time. I have 3 titanium screws that keep my arm in place. So I didn't get back in the ring or start training anyway until the end of 2008. So I come back in 2009. I make my return. I win the state championships. I sweep everything, right? So I'm supposed to go to regionals, but you got to understand, '09, I'm 25 now. I got kids to feed. You see what I'm saying? Boxing has never fed me. I'm an amateur. Hustling and working has fed me. So I had a choice to make. Um, so I said I'm gonna concentrate on my family. So '09 was my last year of boxing. So during '08, like I said, when I was recovering from my surgery, me and a group of guys, we started getting into these endeavors with bro operations. Charmaine was like, "You're really gonna tell these people about this stuff?" I was like, "Yeah, they gotta know the raw. They gotta know exactly what happened, how I got into this thing." So me and my friends, we started, getting into hydroponic grow operations. Like I said, this is the late 2000s. This is way before, like California didn't legalize weed till 2016. See what I'm saying? So we're way ahead of our time. So we're growing, we're growing this bright green weed with all these crystals. Nobody had ever seen nothing like this before. So we charging what we want. So look, I bought a house, I'm buying cars, you know what I'm saying? Look, I had a backup camera and a keyless, you know what I'm saying? It pushed out way before anybody had that. Like I said, I'm young. So everything's going good. So I had a mean little 6-year run with this stuff. Like so '08 to 2014. But like I started off with, when you're comfortable, you're not growing. You see what I'm saying? So I was comfortable. And 2000, it was what, September 2014, my spot got hit. These guys came in, they took my dope, they took the guns, and allegedly, I found out who did it. So um, it was forcible entry. So I'm just gonna skip. See, these are some of my boxing stuff I should have been, but yeah. So 2014, like I said, I found out who did it, and allegedly it was forcible entry into these people's residence that supposedly took my stuff. You see what I'm saying? Um, and that's where you get the two counts of robbery, display of a firearm, and the drug charges came from when they raided my residence to arrest me. When the task force came to my residence, that's how I got the drug charges, right? So I'm in there, and remember I've been locked up before, but it's different this time because I have a family. I didn't have people that needed me the first time. So the feeling is a lot different. Um, and I remember I talked to Charmaine one night, and she was just telling me, like how much the kids were missing me, and that sense of abandonment, it just broke me down. So I went back to my cell, and I don't know if any of y'all believe in a higher power, but I believe in a higher power. And I went back to that cell and I just prayed and I prayed like I never prayed before. And I went into a trance and I said, God, if you get me out of this one, things be different. And I heard it clear as day. I didn't hear it here, I heard it here. I heard it from the inside. And he said, you are a warrior. Shed your warrior spirit, shed that light on the world. And I knew exactly what it meant because of my passions. You see what I'm saying? That fight drive had always been in me. And that situation brought me back to that. So I knew exactly what I was going to do when I got out. And God is good. God always keeps his word. Witnesses didn't come forward. Um, Charges got dropped. The only thing that stuck was the distribution of marijuana. There wasn't no fighting that. They had too much evidence. Um, but I only got 2 years of probation for that, so it was cool, right? So I got out. I turned my loft into a studio gym. Started getting all this equipment. I started training people that I knew from high school, their kids, people that they would recommend. I got on social media, opened up a Facebook account, um, and it just took off. So from 2015 to 2018, that's what I did. But the whole time, I was stockpiling equipment under my house. I can't explain it, but I just knew like this is something I can expand because it's my passion. I wasn't in it for the money. This was really my passion. So um I met a gentleman, his name was Larry Lindsay, and he had a contract with the city. It was the ERC program. These are at-risk youth. All these kids are on probation, right? See how this circles back? All these kids are on probation, right? So they pick them up, they bring them to the facility, they do their homework, then they come out and they train with me. And they, take them back in, they feed them, and they drop them off. So that's how I became a subcontractor through that program. And through that program, I was able to grow my business. We started doing adult group sessions, um, kid youth sessions. We do summer programs, one-on-ones, all women's groups. We even got creative. We started doing like a couples nights where couples would come in and work out together. We would, a catering chef would come in and feed them. They play music. Like we were just being creative, you know what I mean, to grow the brand, like all these different things. And it's 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 really just transpired into just greatness. And just to touch on that blossom theme, like when we're talking about blossom, like pertaining to plants anyway, like a plant blossoms when it it produces flower or fruit. That's when you say a plant is blossoming. When if you see a tree in its vegetative state, like you might not know what type of tree that is, but if you go outside and you see apples are on that tree, you say, okay, this is an apple tree. And I think that same correlation goes to people. When we blossom or we come into our own, we learn to use our natural talents and abilities to outwardly express to the world and give back to the world. You see what I'm saying? And that's the season I'm in right now. And just like those plants, it takes certain environmental factors to force that bloom, like the change in the season. Some plants blossom in the spring, some plants blossom in the winter. My my bloom took harsher conditions. You see what I'm saying? It did, but it forced me to blossom, and that's where I'm at right now, helping people, um, giving back. People need to lose weight, people with certain medical conditions. Um, in the 7 years, we've produced what, 9 state champions, 6 regional champions, 1 national champion. Yep. Two of my regional champions are sitting right here. Um, so it's just been a great time, and it's been a long journey, but like I said, it was all worth it. It was all worth it. And I get the same feeling from like watching one of them raise up a belt that I do, seeing a kid that comes in the gym, uh, weak, no type of coordination, won't look you in the eyes. And then, I start teaching them the jump rope, footwork drills, start getting them to do push ups, pull ups. Then you see their little veins in their arms start popping out, right? They start poking their chest out a little more, and then they come into the gym and hey, what's up, coach? Look at me right in my face. Give me. You can smell the confidence coming off of them, right? It's just life. You know what I mean? Like that pumps me with so much life, just giving back because these fundamental values that I learned from boxing, being able to adapt to whatever's in front of you, and nothing will test your emotional regulation like getting punched in the face and having to think through it. You see what I'm saying? So these type of seeds of resiliency that boxing gave to me, I know how to give it back. You see what I'm saying? Because of the things that I've been through. So that's my story, and it's my season.
You want to do a little demo?
I'm gonna do a little demo.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Anybody have any questions or anything like that?
Let's do the demo and everybody think of their questions while you're doing your demo. And actually we can start with a question while people are gloving up, maybe? Does that work? Yeah. Questions. Oh, Drew, awesome. Thank you. Up, Drew, right here.
Just wanted to tell you how lovely it is to hear your talk. We may not have lives that coexist exactly, and I so appreciate this format to hear your story and feel really inspired by it.
Is that really your first time public speaking? Because it was incredible. Just know you have a career there too, sir.
Wow. I've been boxing for 10 years and she could beat my ass.
Oh, okay. So look, we're having an event tomorrow. We have flyers. Penelope is actually fighting tomorrow at the Diamond. So, so, so please come out and support your local talent because we have a lot. I have like 6 fighters on that card tomorrow, and yeah, it's gonna be badass.
That was fast, Penelope. All right, OJ. Wow. OJ could also beat my ass. I'm not that fast anymore. Sorry. Questions for Tony? Oh, yep. We got one over here and one over here. So get 1 second and we'll get you a mic.
I'm super curious what the transition was like to coaching versus being a boxer. And thank you. And I'm really inspired and amazed by the prioritization of your family while you were really at that pivotal point in your career.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, Honestly, the transition to boxing to coaching was pretty easy. Because I was always like a leader in the gym already. Like that's actually like how I started hitting on Charmaine. It was like, let me let me show you how to throw this jab, baby. You know what I'm saying? So I was already like a leader in the gym already. So I've been a teacher and I've been a mentor. I've already was these things, but like I said, it was just those environmental factors that had to trigger that bloom and make me step into it. So it was quite easy, honestly.
Hello there. It's always so awesome to hear how someone like creates their life and like their story. But I was curious, you shared like the nuggets of wisdom that your grandma and your family have shared with you. Like, what do you pass on to your children?
Um, the biggest thing that I want to pass on to my children, and I do, I talk to them about it. I make sure they know how to pray, because that was, I think that was, because I went through it, and I know what happened when I was in that cell, and I know what happened. You know what I'm saying? So it's like just that power of prayer, because things are gonna get rough. Things not gonna go your way, and you got to have something that you can tap into. You know what I mean? To get that, it's just something. You got to believe in something. You know what I mean? So I think the power of prayer is what I want to pass on to my kids the most. Just because when things get tough, they gotta know how to pray.
So I have middle school boys,
Yeah.
and they're, how do you talk to them and the kids that you train about confidence and respect, and like, what are some of the kind of pieces of wisdom that you give to them?
Um, I concentrate on their goods. I try to put what I call put a battery in their back. I pump them up. I make them feel good. I concentrate on the things that they do well, and but also focus on the things that they need to work on. But I just positive motivation. You know, everybody brings something. You just got to figure it out. Okay, hey man, you can I don't know, you can hop on one foot real good or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, just concentrating on the positive. Mhm.
Oh, I'll be brief. So, what's the youngest age that you recommend starting with boxing?
All right, so that's funny because I don't take anything younger than 7, 8. I took OJ when he was 6, but OJ was different. OJ was a ruffian, but he's matured, and I didn't have to watch OJ. If I tell OJ to do something, he's gonna do it. But a lot of kids, when they're young, they just don't have that type of independency. You know what I mean? Attention span. So, as far as my group sessions, 7, 8 years old is the youngest. But like the four, like we do one-on-ones for like 4 to 8. But I send them all to Charmaine.
You're building some great life skills for people with what you do, and like especially like the sense of rhythm. Like the 1, 2, 2, 3. Do you get many drummers coming in, or people going into music as well with the sense of rhythm? Because that rhythm of life is something that they can carry with them wherever they go. So thank you for your talk today.
Hey, I appreciate that. Uh, I'm from the Tidewater area, so Pernell Whitaker, Sweet Pea. Everybody wanted to be like Sweet Pea when I was growing up. That was the first fight I actually saw. That was the first fight I actually watched was Sweet Pea. Like I said, I was young. I don't even remember how old I was. I was that young. Yeah.
My question is actually for Charmaine. Uh, as a martial artist myself, I'm curious about your transition into this. Is this something you were doing before? Did you just start helping him to help? Do you have practice fighting? How did you go from not being in this to being in this?
Okay. So I was always an athlete. I loved, sports activities and I've coached for a while. But
She's
one
being modest. She's in Petersburg Hall of Fame.
when I got back from college, I couldn't play softball anymore because we actually tore the same labrum. We had the same injury, and I had surgery the year before I came back. So when I came back and I healed, um, felt better. I've always wanted to box. I loved watching it and playing around with my brother, fighting him. His name was Boxer, but his nickname. But once I came back and I was healed, I decided to try out this gym down the street from me, And I said, okay, I can get into it. And that's where, we met, and he used to hit on me, you know, literally though. Nah, but and then once, we started sparring, and then I was about to compete, and then I got pregnant, and we got pregnant. But yeah, got pregnant, and had our children. That's history from there. But I still coach, still love it, and I enjoy working with children as well as adults, and training them to bring out the confidence, the best in them, relieve stress, have fun, and work out. Yeah.
Tony, thank you again.
Amazing. That was incredible.